Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it is frustrating, as the chairman knows. 2 or 3 years ago, we passed a major overhaul of immigration from this committee, bipartisan, passed the United States Senate 2-1. Republicans and Democrats voting for it. The Republican leadership said they couldn't bring it up in the House where it would have passed, but it would have violated the sacred Dennis Hastert rule. And because of their enormous respect for it, well, this was before Mr. Hastert went to prison, but they couldn't bring it up. I think everybody wishes now they had, because it would have helped Dreamers. I worry that when we talk about DACA, there's a lot of fear-mongering that goes on. Dreamers seek nothing more than to contribute to the only country, most of it the only country they've known. Every way but on paper, there's the senators who are up here. So will we embrace those who are playing by the rules, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps, or do we tell we stick to the xenophobic attitude that faced my grandparents when they immigrated to Vermont from Italy, or my great-great-grandparents when they immigrated from Ireland? Now, let me ask Mr. Riedler. In a recent speech announced at the end of DACA, Attorney General Sessions suggested the DACA program put our nation at risk of crime, violence, and even terrorism. Well, the Libertarian Cato Institute study that confirmed that less than 1% of Dreamers have lost their DACA status due to criminal or public safety concerns. Mr. Riedler, did the Attorney General of the United States accurately describe the Justice Department's view that DACA puts our nation at risk of crime and violence?
Thank you for your question. Yes, the Attorney General's letter primarily articulated a host of concerns.
No, did he accurately describe the Justice Department's view that DACA puts our nation at risk of crime and violence? Yeah. I've read the letter.
Certainly.
That's an easy yes or no answer.
So certainly the Attorney General speaks for the Department of Justice. Yes.
So he accurately describes the Justice Department's view that they believe that DACA puts our nation at risk of crime, violence, and even terrorism.
Well, again, the Attorney General speaks for the Department, and so what the Attorney General says is the position of the Department. Yes.
Now, it's also been found that Dreamers are less likely to be incarcerated than native-born Americans with the same age and education profiles. In light of Attorney General Sessions' statement, who you represent here, can you provide this committee with any examples of Dreamers who have been involved in terrorist activities? He spoke of that as being a real problem with Dreamers, terrorist activity. Which, you don't have to give me hundreds, just give me one.
Yes, Senator Leahy, I'm not aware of any examples.
Neither is the Attorney General when he said that. I can guarantee you that. Can you provide us with any statistics compiled by the DOJ or other government agencies to support the Attorney General's claims about Dreamers' proclivity for criminality?
You'd have to ask other agencies what resources they have. The Attorney General, obviously, in his letter, articulated the position of the United States, and the Attorney General, my understanding, will be appearing in front of the committee this month, and I'm sure he'd be happy to address those issues.
I'm glad to hear that. He's taken longer than the Attorney General since I've been here, but I've only been here 42 years with the Republican and Democratic administrations. You have to defend the policies in court. It's striking that you say, well, we have to ask somebody else because you don't know the answer to that.
I'd be happy to defend the policies, Senator Leahy.
But you don't know the answer to the question.
Well, the answer, Senator Sessions' letter articulated 4 or 5 reasons why he recommended to Acting Secretary Duke that the policy be wound down.
I understand.
And that is the position that we're defending in court.
He also spoke of their proclivity toward terrorism, and we don't seem to find any. President Trump, in rescinding the DACA program, said our highest duty is to defend the American people. Well, there are roughly 900 Dreamers serving in our military, with skills deemed vital to the military. Now, the president, of course, had 5 deferments because his heel was bothering him while he was out playing tennis. So he hasn't served in the military, but these are the Dreamers have. Mr. McCommett, isn't it in our national interest to keep these Dreamers in our armed forces?
Thank you, Senator. With respect to the Dreamers in the armed forces or in the other occupations, we recognize that the action of deferred action does not provide them a permanent status. And so that's why we want to really work
So are you
with
planning to deport the 1,000 Dreamers who are in our military?
Senator,
Yes or no?
Senator, that would be a question for ICE, but for the department. But the enforcement priorities have not changed, as my colleague shared.
Yeah, but you're the acting director of USIS. Do you have plans to deport these 1,000 who are serving with our military at a time when we're facing stress around the world?
Thank you, Senator, for the opportunity to clarify. I apologize. USCIS is not in charge of enforcement and removal operations, but with respect to ICE, their priorities haven't changed, and we could provide more information.
Well, I will submit some questions for the record, and I hope to be answered. And, Mr. Chairman, I'm delighted to hear the Attorney General is going to come and chat with us
2.5 weeks.
in 2.5 weeks.
I think it's the 19th, but I don't know for sure.
I'll drop by.
Well, you'll probably be here for the whole meeting, and I welcome you. Senator Kennedy.